Okay, we're starting again. Let's see if we can get it done. Technical errors, not my desires, but this is what we're going through. Okay, we have a person viewing. We have two people viewing. Isaac. So I seem like I have two people viewing, but somebody came in before Isaac, and three people have come in. But I do not see if I can. It doesn't seem like I can see them. These techno is weird. I saw Isaac come in. I see three people are starting to come in, but I do not see a way to get Mr. Agbayanou to come in. Okay. So we're for those who are joining me in for the first time, Cesar, nice to see you. For those who are joining in, we're trying to see if we can get Mr. Agbayanou for the interview that we had planned today for 1 p.m. I see Cesar. It says Cesar those watching, bring them on camera. So I have Isaac and Cesar who can come in, but I do not see Mr. Agbayanou. Okay, so I'm giving him instructions to go in fully to see if he's in. But I see the list of people who are watching. Aha, I have them. Okay, here we are. Okay. I think we are getting Mr. Agbayanou right now. Let's see. I think we're adding him. I mean, we're trying to because I've requested him. I finally have seen Mr. Agbayanou. It seems like I finally see him, but I don't know if it's adding him. Request. All right. Let's see if I'm adding him because I've added him. Aha, bring him on camera. Okay. Okay. What the heck? I know. Okay, so he's here. Mr. Agbayanou is in the contact list. I can see him here, but let's see if, how I can request him. What does it say here? My friends to watch. No. Okay. He's watching, and I'm going to invite him again. Okay. I'm adding him. I'm clicking on adding him and inviting him, and let's see if we can. It says it's declined. Okay, let's try it again. Maybe he's having technical issues. Okay. Let's see if we can get him now. So we're almost gonna get Mr. Agbayanou. Now I can actually see him, so that's good. Let me see if and it's trying to add him as a camera, but I'm not seeing him yet. So we're still waiting on him. If it works out, great. If not, we'll have to conduct the interview another day when things work out, or in a different format. Maybe he'll run the live and I'll join him. That's all an alternative. We'll have to plan that for everybody who's my viewers. Oh, wait. Here we go, Mr. Agbayanou. Nice to see you.
Yeah. How are you?
I am doing very well, thank you. How's the weather over there? How's everything over here? Is it very cold?
Yeah, here is always better. You know, Africa is more sunny. Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad to see you, but everybody's watching already, so not to waste your time, let's get right into it. For everybody who's watching the interview, I'm a Babalawo of the Lukumi tradition, Omo Odu as well, and you had mentioned that you were not an initiated priest. What is your status with the Benin practice? Are you a researcher or an anthropologist?
Now, you know, in Benin culture, you know, almost everybody is connected to Vodun spirituality. Whether you like it or not, no matter the spirituality you're practicing, you're part of Vodun. So my work consists in reconnecting Africans of the diaspora to the root. As you can see the name of my channel, my YouTube channel, Back to the Root. You know, I was born in the culture, grew up in the culture, and then I made some remarks and I decided to shed light on the culture for people to have more clarity about what it is really. And I mean, to avoid people people keep continue thinking that voodoo is evil cult or stuff like that. Yeah, it is to awake our people.
All right, so what I'm going to try to do super quickly is whatever you say, I'm going to try to do a quickly Spanish translation to the people who are watching for some Spanish speakers, and then we'll go on to the questions. Lo que está diciendo el señor Agbayanou es que él dice que no es un sacerdote, pero que básicamente toda la gente que vive en Benín de alguna forma u otra están apegados con la práctica del Voodoo Fa y que su interés es educar a la gente de que la práctica del Voodoo Fa no es una práctica mala, no es una práctica de cosas malas, que es una práctica religiosa autóctona de Benin. So one of the questions that the Babalaos had, you know, right to the controversial questions, because I saw it in one of your videos, at least two of the videos, that spoke about the issue of women not receiving a second hand of Ifa. Now, in the Cuban tradition, it is forbidden for women to receive more than one hand. They call it the Owofakan or the Ikofafun, but they cannot become what we call Babalaos. They cannot throw okwele, they cannot divine with seeds, they can't do any of that stuff. What is the practice of the bokonon that you know in Benin and the zones that you've practiced and seen?
Yeah, thank you for this question. You know, let us tell the way things have always been, and instead of making up stories. You know, when you really know what Fa is and the spirit behind the Fa initiation, women cannot be Ifa priestess. There's no Ifa priestess in Benin culture anyway. You also have to understand that Benin is like a crossroad of African spirituality, because you have the Yoruba style. We have Yoruba people here. We have the Togolese, the Ewe people. We have the Ghanaian, and even us in Benin, we are originally from Ghana, Ashanti people, the real name which is Asante. Now, when we're talking about Fa practices, everything is, long story short, it is Boko Legba, which Nigerians or Yoruba people will call Eshu Elegbara, is the one that can give you the knowledge of Fa, because, and it is a masculine force. Now, when we take the Nango initiation, the Nango style, for example, it is Badu, the divinity that they call Du, that can give you Fa. To initiate someone, it needs to be in the Ifa forest, and you have to see Legba. You understand?
Yes.
You have to see not Legba. I'm talking about Badu. It is not in form as Badu, but in Nango land, Yoruba land, as Odu. You see? Okay. Now, since it is that divinity that can give Fa, that is the last point of the Fa initiation in Nango style, and women are not allowed to see that divinity, how can the woman be the Fa priestess?
Right,
that is the point here. It is not possible to do the initiation, the full initiation, without going to that divinity that women cannot see. Anyway, up to now, I've heard nowhere that a woman can see Badu. And Badu is the one in Nango style that gives Fa, for you to say that you are initiated to Fa. In the first side, in place of Badu, we have Na in the first style. And to be a bokono, that is the Babalao in Fongbe, to be a bokono, you have to do initiation to eat with Legba, because it's question of contract with a spirit that do divination. And since the woman is not allowed to go to that point, whereas everything is based there, I think It is just a story when people say woman can throw the akpele, and now when it comes to the initiation or go to the badu, she will stay outside. It doesn't make sense. If she's a priestess, this means that she can do everything. It is true that some women, because their parents are far priests, they stay, help them, and know a lot about the thing, can even interpret signs, but this does not make them far priest or far priestess.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the interview all in English just so not we waste time with the translations. And then after that, I'll listen to what you said and try to type it in Spanish for the Spanish viewers. Now, in our practice, I'm sorry, in your practice, what priesthoods are available for women? In our practice, there's women who can become Olorisha. It's similar like the Nigerian tradition. They can be an Olorisha of Yemaya, which might be like Mama Awati. It could be an Olorisha of Shango, which could be like Hevioso, etc. Now, what is the limitations for women, and what can they do and what can't they do? We know now that they cannot become Ifa priestess because they do not see Badu. What is available to them?
Yeah, okay. We have two main principles that rule this universe. One masculine force and one feminine force. We can sum up, the African spirituality in two things. The masculine force that we're talking about is symbolizes by Legba. And the feminine power in Fon tradition is Na. Minona, Na, which is Badu in Yoruba. Okay. You see?
Is it the same is it the same deity with a different name?
You know, when we say Na,
seems like we've lost his connection for a second. Let's see. Hello?
So, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you. It went off for a moment. You were saying that you didn't know if it was equivalent.
Yeah, because I don't know well the names. I cannot do the equivalent of name of divinities between Nigeria and Benin. I'm not qualified for that. Now, what I know is that we have two main forces ruling this Mother Nature. It is the masculine force is Legba, and the feminine force is Minona in Fon and Badu. That is the feminine power. Now, when we consider that all divinities, okay, come from the feminine power. And when you mention any divinity, a woman can be the priestess of that divinity. But when it comes to Fa, Boko Legba, a woman cannot be that priestess, cannot be priest for that. But when you're talking about anything that Yoruba call Orisha, a woman can be priestess of that.
Okay.
Yes.
So that going on to that question about, because it's, since we have limited time, I want to go more of the questions that are very interesting in terms of the controversies of that. How is it that the practice, let me see if I can find the question because I had it written down here pretty good. Okay, here we go. How does Benin Ifa practice view homosexuality? In Nigeria, it seems that it's very taboo and that they cannot be Babalaos, and in some respects cannot be Olorisha. In the Cuban tradition, they are allowed to become Olorisha, but not Babalaos. What is the view of Benin Ifa, bokonon, and stuff like that in terms of initiating homosexuals? Can they be bokonon and or can they be other priests? If they cannot be bokonon, can they be other stuff? And by that I mean also bisexuals and transsexuals. Anybody with any type of that. And forgive me for the questions because these questions come from my forum, and many of the priests in the Lukumi tradition wonder: is it more like how we do it, or is it more like how the Nigerians do it?
I will not tell you if how do you call them, homosexual or stuff like that. That is not Africa, please. That is, we don't even know what you're talking about. It's true, we are lettered and we can see things on TV, But when you come down here, nobody knows what you're talking about. Man marrying a man, that's crazy for the local people here.
Okay.
Woman marrying a woman, even they will ask you just to look around yourself and see animals. Even animals, they behave better. So that is, that's not my viewpoint. I'm just telling you what it is on the ground. Okay. That thing does not exist first up to be discussed like, can there be priestess or priest? It doesn't make sense to us.
Okay, thank you. That makes a lot of sense, because so culturally it's something that doesn't make sense to us.
We have never.
Okay, I understand. Let me see really quickly. In Benin practice, do you use or better yet, the bokonon, do they use, or the practitioners use drawings on the floor, what we call in Spanish firmas? We do these type of drawings in front of a deity, and sometimes they light with gunpowder or with alcohol. Energetic, they call it some kind of action to provoke the deity into action. Do you have that type of practice as well in bokonon practice, or in Voodoo Ifa?
The spirituality, we have many categories in the priesthood. We have the readers. Their work is totally different from a Vodun priest. And a Vodun priest's work is different from a Huno, a technician. There are divinities that people might take for Vodun, but truly speaking, they are Vodun both. They are a type of Vodun that if we'll put in our modern world, we'll call them robotry, like people developing different weapons for wars, So like you talk about Gambada, you have to know that Gambada is not a Vodun like Shango, Sapata, others. No. When we're talking about Shango, Dan, Sapata, all those divinities, no matter your skin color, no matter where you are born with that, because they are natural forces ruling Mother Nature. They are based on 4 main elements that we call the air, the earth, the fire, and water. So it is not question of choice. And Vodou spirituality is more about knowing thyself. Not that I get into something that, no. When it comes to Gambada, Tron, those stuff, that is technology our forefathers developed, spiritual technology, to protect themselves. So it is a weapon just like a gun. You can take it to destroy. You can take it to protect yourself. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to blue powder on the ground, that does not have to do with fat. When you see the blue powder and the draw, that is technology. It is divinity that we worship, but at the root, it is a technology. It is an invention. It is not, we are not born with. You cannot go to Fa and found out that you are ruled by Kamba.
Oh. Seems like we've lost Mr. Agbayanou for a second. Let me see if I can add him. Let's see if I find him again. Where is Mr. Agbayanou? That was an interesting conversation. For those who are watching the conversation, it seems like he was suggesting that what we have similarly in the Cuban side, which is deities like Orun, deities like Osain, deities like Abita and stuff like that, who we use specifically for the same purpose he's saying. One thing is Ifa practice, what we do with Babalao work, Ebo work, and then what he's calling it spiritual technology. So it seems like it's very similar to what we do with Osain. When we work with Osain and with gunpowder and firmas, it's different. Let me see if he's written me, because it seems like he's following. One second, please don't go away while I talk to him. All right, let's see if we can add it again. I'm keeping an eye on him to see if he's come in again. 1 second, okay? Here we are. I'm inviting him again. Person was unable to join because of technical issues. Okay, let's try it again. He's here. I see him in the list, but he's not allowing me to add. Ah, here we go. Okay, so we're adding. Let's see if he comes in. 1 second, guys. Aha, we're in again. Technological problems, I'm sure. We were talking about spiritual technology and it got involved.
Yeah.
That's what it was. So
Yeah.
just to summarize, in our practice in the Afro-Cuban tradition, we have deities like Osain, which is the deity of nature in Nigeria and stuff like that, where we do things like that. We use the deity for good or for bad. It can be due for cleansing, but it can be due to attack somebody in defense through the use of those things. So now I understand that there is Ifa practice or Ofa practice with the bokonon, and that is separate from spiritual technology that you might use as a deity, like you said, I think Tron or Gambata, right?
Yeah, and also,
Let's hope it doesn't fall
it's
apart.
not qualified to do, or the Babalao here is not qualified to do Vodun work. A Vodun priest is different. The Babalao can see everything. He is a reader. And when you go to him, Pa is just an advisor, a mighty advisor, the beholder of all knowledge. And the person who can give that knowledge is Boko Legba, that people call Eshu Elegbara. Now, when you go to the Fa priest, it is to see, first, it can be to know yourself, who you are. That is Fa initiation. Or it is to have a solution to a given problem. So when you go to the Fa priest and he consults, the solution may be in the hand of an Orisha. He has to direct you to that Orisha priest or priestess. The solution might be with Boko Legba, then it is his side. He can fix it. Because as a Bokono, he is Boko Legba priest. I mean, Legba priest, the Fa priest is serving Legba. So, but when it comes that the divinities revealed have nothing to do with his qualification, he has to direct you to the right priest. The same way you can question Fa, and Fa will tell you that there's no solution than technology. People have to understand that. It's not that you go to Fa, you always have solution. Because it depends on who you are and what are you going for. Is it for bad? Is it for good? Are you not paying maybe for something you did in the past? So be careful. You can go to the Fa priest and he will direct you to different. So he's not qualified to do everything. But since he's serving Boko Legba, he can say, okay, go to this divinity and do this work. And when you go in, you have to see the priestess or the priest of that divinity. Yeah, that's very important to clarify.
Good. That's actually a good clarification. Thank you very much. That actually answers another one of the questions I had, so we won't ask that one. In terms of the practice in the Lukumi side and also the Nigerian side, when we use the Fatre, what you guys will call the Fatre, I don't know if you have I think
Fate.
one book, the Fate, right? We call it Opong Ifa or Atepong Ifa or whatever. Do you also do rituals upon the Fate beyond divination, beyond using seeds to mark the signs? Is there rituals to cleanse what the Nigerians call Ebo? I've heard that there might be a title named Vonsisa or Vo or something to that effect. Could you speak more about the Vonsisa and how large are they? Our Vonsisa or our Ebo are very big. We have 56 signs that we mark in the tray and we pray. The Nigerians usually have 12 to 20. How is the tradition in Benin Ifa?
You know, when you question your Fa, when you question, you go to the Fa for a problem. When you take any sign, they embodies several verses, fables. And based on who is in front of you, you know which ritual, which vosisa is required, the sacrifice. Let me give you an example of Ifa sign that we call Chetula Klebo, Yekulogbe. That is Oyeku and Ogbe. Okay? In form, we will say Yekulogbe. Yeah. That is a very, very good sign. And whoever goes to the Fa and see that is happy because he's a king. He's a winner. But before you are a winner on that sign, you have to be small sized person. If you are fat, you are big, you go there. And because you see, you think that, okay, Yakulobe, oh, that's powerful, is the tiny bird defeating the giant elephant, because that's one of the verse of that sign. If you are big, this means that you are the elephant, and it is shame on the way. Whereas if you were a skinny, a short person, a small person, this means that you are the tiny bird that is going to defeat the elephant. So you have to consider, first of all, who is taking the divination. That is why in form we simply say, no Babalao can master all the signs and all the secret behind the fact. The knowledge is half given. That is why a real bokonon is someone connected to Bokoleba. So when he's throwing his cane on the ground, he opened a third eye or a third ear. It is not a question of memorizing the sign and practicing it. I am here now, no matter the sign you draw, I will tell you. I will even guide you and say, okay, you have to do this, you have to do that, be careful. But I am not a fat priest. You understand?
Now, interesting that you say that, because there has been a large debate, and maybe you can clarify from the Benin practice. There's been a large debate between the Nigerian practitioners and the Lukumi practitioners, and I'll explain them. The Nigerian practitioners that we've talked about say, when a Babalao throws the chain, they recite verses in poetic form in their version, what they call Eshifa, that will explain the problem of the person, but that there is no spirituality that comes in to speak to them. It's just, hey, there might be 20 verses, a verse about the bird, a verse about a person who was healthy, a verse about an enemy, all type of verses. But they only do things very robotically, meaning this is the verse, this is the abo, this is the solution. The Cubans are not this way. The Cuban practice, when we throw the chain, we will speak certain themes of the signs, but we also hear and feel, wait a minute, are you having problems in your household? And the person will say, yes, I am having. How did you know that? Now you're talking about this third eye, this third communication that comes in through divination. It's interesting that you say that the Benin people also consult, not necessarily from the verses, but what they feel inside is telling them is the problem of the person. So you guys have like a spiritual mediumship at the same time that you throw the chain?
When you're doing Sfa, you are serving a spirit that we call Bokoleba. I think I just said that.
Yep.
Okay, why do you want the spirit not to be involved? The spirit is there. And if you are really connected, you have to be connected. Otherwise, it's like, I can be a far priest. Like you question me, okay, Richard, are you a far priest? I can tell you, yes, I am Babalawo Agbayanou, but that doesn't make sense. That's not life.
I understand. You would throw the chain and it wouldn't have anything to do with what's going on.
Yeah, but when you throw the chain, we already know that when we have this sign, this is the message. You understand? Yeah. We already have an understanding the verses. We already have written fable, written already known stories. But it might not be, because, okay, let us say that when we take only one sign, it has like 16 different fables. Which one do you know really fit the person who is in front of you? They need someone, a spirit, to guide you. You understand?
Yes, I understand.
Yeah. You will consult far and you have the same sign. I have the same sign, but the ritual will be totally different.
Based on the person, based on what they're dealing with, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's very similar to us, but it's gratifying to know that, because one of the reasons I wanted to do this interview is that many of the people on the Lukumi side are of the belief that the ancestors who came to Cuba, there were many Benin people who came too. Many Fombe, many Ewe as well, Oshanti, who all came too. And their practices have been part of our practice. So it's a little bit different. Now, going on with this question about fables, I understand that what we do when we do a divination is we recite a refrain. We'll say something to the effect of, the monkey doesn't trust his own tail. So which is basically telling the person, do not trust in anybody, because you shouldn't trust with anybody at this moment. So we'll say something to that effect, and then we will say the story. I'm going to give you an example of our tradition, Ofunsa. And we will say, the monkey does not trust even his own tail. And then we will talk about a story about how Obatala had a servant who was the monkey. When Obatala would leave, he was the king of the castle, and the monkey would, act a fool on his throne. He would do all types of things when he wasn't there. And the other servants of the house would say to him, hey, when you leave, he's making fun of you. He gets on your throne and starts doing monkey things. So at the end of the story, Obatala saw through a window, he faked like he was leaving, and he saw through a window that monkey was acting like a fool on his throne, and he was able to catch the monkey in the act, meaning the person who was betraying him. So we tell the person, you have somebody that's betraying you, that when you leave, they talk behind your back, they betray you, etc. So we do a consultation on the basis of a refrain, the monkey does not trust his own tail, and then we recite the fable and we talk to the person. I have heard that bokonon have a similar style, that they might have recite something called a detente or something to that effect, and a narrative, a story. Do you do any type of poetic verses like the Yoruba style, or you only do fables and a refrain?
It's everything in body. But priests are gifted differently. There are priests who do not know much about fables, who do not know about stories, and when you go, you consult them, you will not be even satisfied. Like, you are not satisfied with their response. But when they do the work, it will be perfect. So the power is in the hand. That is how they work. Other people are very good at storytelling. And when they got a sign, that will make you so happy. They will speak to you as if they were in your house, chanting stories, fables, proverbs, incantations, and you will find yourself. But when they do the work, you will not be satisfied.
Ah, okay. Okay.
And there are priests who are gifted both skill. So that's why we say that nobody really fully knows Ifa. You understand? We have those where we do exactly what you're saying, but beyond that, those are the possibilities. Okay. There are people who are not good at narration.
Some people have Ashe to figure out a problem, diagnose a problem, and retake the story, and other people have Ashe for performing Vonsisa. When they perform a Vonsisa, the person resolves the problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
People are
quick question. We use coconut. I know that the Nigerians use it as well. We use pieces of coconut to divine yes or no question to some of the lesser divinities. What we consider, it shouldn't be lesser divinities, but not divinities that are not Orumila or Fa. What is the objects that are used in Benin Ifa to be able to do quick yes or no questions? To see if a Vonsis is accepted, to see if a sacrifice is accepted, what objects are physically used?
Now, in fact, that thing is question of the materials you have in your area. It is not that when you, I can even, okay, I have this on my table. Can you see it?
Yes,
maybe that's what I have in my, I can use it. It's just question like, okay, if you agree that this is the question, okay, take this thing for us. If you don't agree, take this one and you put it on the side. You see, it is not that the object you take change something or make something special. No, you consider things that are at your disposal. But yeah, and you know, maybe you're in an area and you don't have coconut. What are you doing? They will have another practice. I mean, curry shell. But generally in Benin, we have two main things. We say that for our whispering to go to the divinity to respond, we have a knot that we call ajikwi. I really don't have the English nor the French version that you talk to without touching your mouth with, and you drop it, and whatever question you ask it, they will start divining with. So you can have curry shell, you can have different objects, you know, you can have stone, you see rock, you can have coconut shell, you know, you're free. You use what you have. Beads,
what you have. Okay,
Yeah.
which makes sense. I mean, in Cuba we use coconut, but there has been reports that in some houses, when there was no coconut, they would either use the hard shell of the coconut, whatever was on the leftover, cowrie shells, 4 cowrie shells, or they would use coins. They would take 4 regular coins with a, you know, with face, whatever
Yeah.
country coin you have there, with a face and the tail. They would throw the coins in whichever way they find out. It's interesting to note that that is whatever you resolve with. It's not. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be one object.
Yeah. And one thing, the spirit that is above all is the air principle, dump. You know, when the question becomes very complicated, you know, you need some beats that we call dump beats. If you really want the Dan to interfere and tell, because there are some divinities like Dan or Tohosu, when you already got some warning and you have not, they can be hidden and you will be consulting fire. You will think that the priests are not true, but they are real. Just because you are neglectful, they're punishing you. So to get to the point for the spirit to really come and talk, they will use a bead that we call dump bead. It will be white or blue. Then automatically you will have clarity on the point. Other than that, you just use what you have at your disposal.
Now, this is a question that you might have already kind of answered. One of the questions is basically in Nigeria, they don't talk about this too much. The priest will not say this very publicly for obvious reason. It's an uncomfortable subject, but they do send negative work. I know I've heard that they call it epe, which is curses, asasi or abilu, negative spells. In Cuba, most babalaos, if you ask them personally, hey, do you do witchcraft? They will say no. But the babalaos who are in the practice know that if somebody messes with them, of course they do. They'll do certain things that are negative. The question is, do in Benin, do bokonon do any type of asasi or any type of negative work with fa to basically defend themselves or their family? Or is that something that they would, as you say, go to another priest? They would say to a person, you need to go to a specialist who knows the technology of that.
Please take the question again.
Okay, no problem. The question is, the babalaos in the Cuban and Nigerian tradition, they, even though they might not speak about it, they're able to do negative spiritual work in order to defend themselves in certain situations. Now, does the bokonon are able to do that as well? Or they would say, I don't do that. Go to somebody who works with Tron, or go with somebody who works with Gambata, and you need their spiritual technology. What would they do?
In fact, we say the mouth that pronounces good does not pronounce evil.
Yeah.
Which means this life is a choice. Either you decide to do the right thing, or you decide to be on both sides. But know that you have to know that nothing is for free. You will pay one way or another. A real bokono is different from a huno. A huno is a technician. People here know when I'm looking for this thing, I'm not going to bokono. I'm going to this type of priest. People already know that. But truly speaking, they are bokono. If you are bokono and you decide, I mean, you have some knowledge, you know that when you add this to this, it doesn't do good to people, and you do it, that is your fault. It's not the far practice. The far practice is just to give advice to people, direct people to the right person, to the right tool. And far, we always tell you, let me give you this sentence from Samenji, Ketula Kleb Samenji. Samenji says that there is no there is no spiritual technology that is above Vodun themselves. At the end of the day, you will come and bow down to the divinities and pay for whatever you have done.
The law of karma. The law of karma, basically. Of bad behavior will always get you bad behavior. Okay, one last question, and then we have to let Mr. Agbayanou get going. Thank you very much for your time. I think everybody has enjoyed this. I know a lot of the priests have been writing me privately, and I can't pay attention to go quickly, but they're very happy with the answers. This has answered a lot of questions that we've had. The last question is one controversial one for us, and it might be controversial for some viewers. In some of the Cuban icons that we have for our orishas, especially in the Fa practice, for the icons that are created by bokonon in our tradition, or babalaos as we call ourselves, there might be elements of a human remains, like an arm, a finger, a person's skull, a part of a skull that is shaven, a powder, because we believe that there's a linkage between the physical spirit of that person and the icon, so that the spirit serves as an intermediary between the earth, the spirit, and the divinity. So that's the reason that they added to the icon, for more effectiveness. Let's put it that way. The Nigerians, I have not seen that they do that, or if they do not speak too much about it. There's been a lot of doubts, and this is the one question that all the babalaos in my group have asked me to ask you. They've wanted to know if that practice of adding bones comes from Benin, or if in Benin practice they might have icons, whether Tron, Gambata, or any of these guys, that will have some kind of an item of a deceased person's bone, or some kind of a pact with the spirit, because they want to know what's the roots of that. How did that arrive to Cuba? I must have gotten from somewhere, and they would like to know if the roots of that is Benin.
Okay. I think that some while ago, I told you that we have two types of deities. We have what we call
all right. Let's see if it comes back.
Priesthood.
Okay, we're here again. Now it's working. It just went off for a second. Go ahead. You were saying there's two types of deities.
Yeah. So when you're talking about Dan, Shango, the twins, orishas that are connected to Mother Nature, and everybody is born with and worshiping in one way or another, there's nothing that is human part of the body. You understand?
Yes.
But I don't know what, for example, what Russia is putting in his atomic bomb or stuff like that. Someone who is a technician making robotry can use anything he has on hand. And because there are two divinities I'm talking about. When it is connected to Mother Nature, you don't command them. A Vodun does not command his Vodun to do things. He do prayers, and he is under the command of the Vodun. But a Huno dealing with spiritual weapons and robotry, he is the one who commands his spirit. And he is the one who knows how he made his stuff, how he feed his stuff. So I cannot say that this divinity, for example, we're talking about Gambara, which is a weapon really well known to control people and that scammers use. But that Gambara can be made differently. And who knows how you made yours? You understand? So that's my answer to the question.
It could be any object of nature. It could be plants, stones, sticks, gunpowder, because we have something similar. Depending on the tradition in Cuba, there was at least probably 2 or 3 different ways to how to make a sign, and some of them would put bones, others would not. They would put a natural object, etc. So it depended on the zone. We have a belief that maybe there was
let me tell you a short story before I'm done.
Yes.
I remember I have a Huno very powerful in Sangueto show, and he was going through a lot. Everything stopped, business, nothing was moving, and he decided to call a far priest who used to be my friend as well. He already joined the ancestor. And when he thrown the chain, he said, I will not call his name, that's bad. He said, you are the source of your problem. You are hiding something in your room. And just because of that, everything stopped. Because the divinities, the ancestors say you should never use that thing in your business in your spirituality. And that thing, yeah. So it simply means, I'm telling you that story to say that you cannot do both things. You cannot do both things. Make your choice. The mouth that pronounces good does not pronounce evil.
We have a saying that's very similar in Cuba. We say the mouth that spits out salt cannot taste the sweetness or cannot have sweetness. The same thing. Very similar to the...
Yeah, it's my English, yeah.
No, it's good. Your English is perfect.
Yeah.
Everybody here loved it. Mr. Agbayanou, thank you very much for your time. I hope I'm going to continue watching your show. For those who have not seen him, I highly recommend going to YouTube to Path to the Root. There's a lot of things. I remember that I went and saw all his videos about Egun, about Orulewe, about different prohibitions. And what made me want to reach out to Mr. Agbayanou is the fact that many of the practices that he speaks of, because I saw almost all his videos before, they are very similar to the Cuban tradition. I'm convinced that there's 20 or 30% of the Cuban tradition that is Benin based. The other 60 to 80% might be more Yoruba and Ago. But there's not been enough investigation and enough interviews, enough information from the Benin side. So we thank you for your time and giving us that information. Okay. And it seems like it frozen a little bit. Let me see if he's still there. He's saying thank you. Okay, everybody, thank you very much. Let me see if I can remove Mr. Agbayanou. And thank you very much for the time for Mr. Agbayanou. It was very informative. We went to some of the more controversial questions because we have very little time. As you saw, we had maybe like about an hour with Mr. Agbayanou. So we were trying to get the questions that all the Babalaos debate. And what I'm going to do now for those who are Spanish speakers, para los que hablan español, que estaban escuchando, no se preocupen, yo voy a escuchar el video, yo voy a tratar de ver las preguntas que yo hice, voy a tratar de hacer las traducciones rápidas, como una especie de síntesis de las respuestas en español. Es decir, todo lo que dijo el señor Agbayanou, las preguntas, los vamos a tratar de reducir en un formato fácil de leer con todas las preguntas para tener claramente un poquitito de confirmación y un poquitito de evidencia de cómo son las prácticas en Benín. Yo personalmente siento de que esta entrevista nos confirmó las dudas de muchos babalaos, que muchas de las prácticas que tenemos en el Ifa cubano, el Ifa Lucumí, vienen de Benín. Como pudieron ver muchos de ustedes, tienen similares prácticas, similares conceptos de vida, similares conceptos de los ancestros, similares conceptos en términos de separar Ifa de lo que es la práctica de Osain. O sea, como él dijo, el que hace mal no puede estar con el lado del bien. El que hace brujerías tirando fulazos no puede estar con el bien. Y eso es también una práctica nuestra también. Muchas cosas interesantes. For English, thank you very much for viewing. I think for many of the English viewers and people who are practitioners of Afro-Cuban Ifa, practitioners of Nigerian Ifa, people who are generally study African traditional religions, we got confirmations, and I think a lot of Lukumi priests will agree, that many of the practice that we do in Lukumi practice were not invented, that they come from the Benin side. The fact that we do not initiate women as Fa priests, he was very clear from the beginning, they don't do that. He mentioned that they have certain spiritual technology, Gambada, Tron. I do not know those deities, but I assume that they're very similar to the deities that we have in Cuba with regard to Osain, Orun, Abita, that if you wanted to do negative stuff, you don't go to a bokonon, you know exactly who you're going to. Bahirun Osainista, you're going to go to a specialist and stuff like that. Very interesting answers regarding the use of objects. It says, hey man, whatever you have available. If you have cowrie shells, you use cowrie shells. If you have 4 coins, you use 4 coins. If you have 4 coconuts, you use 4 coconuts. They're more, it seems like the Benin sign practice are more utilitarian. They use whatever they have available. And I believe the Nigerians are very the same too, but they have more of a practice of using obicola. And if they don't have obicola, then they have to use coconut. Then they have to use agbong, which is how they call coconut. So a lot of great answers. I think we got a lot of information given to us. We hope to have other interviews. I'm in the process of communicating with, I think his name is Seba. I think it's Seba Vonkujevi. Seba Vonkujevi. I'm going to have to leave. Seba, or I'll research him more, but he runs a channel named Voodoo revolution, voodoo education. So they have a practice of similar Afa in Ghana. I'm still in the process of negotiating an interview with him. I haven't been able to confirm it, but we at least were able to get Mr. Agbayanou of the practice of Benin Ifa, who's done a lot of great interviews. For those asking, it's called Path to the Root. Yep, that's the name, Miss Glasgow. So I'm going to try to put a link in the later on my YouTube, on my Facebook page, so those that want to visit his channel can view his explanations of voodoo practice in Benin. And there's a lot of interviews. What I did with him, he's done with a whole bunch of bokonon, not one, many priests in their own language. So I thank him very greatly for his time, and thank you for your time to watch the videos. And hopefully we'll have for the Spanish speakers an explanation. We will leave this on Facebook, and we will put this interview as well on my YouTube page for further long-term reference. Thank you, everybody. I got to get going because I actually have clients I have to perform it, boy, and they've been waiting for it. So see you guys later. Cuídense mucho, mucho cariño, mucho iré a todo.